Okay, finally. Thank you guys so much for having patience while I get all of these technical difficulties underway. I had to fight for my life, reboot this computer, reboot it again, try to restructure everything again. But thankfully, I got it all done. So I got a really loaded rant tonight about everything that went on over the break. First of all, Merry Christmas, and I hope you guys had such an awesome, week full of family fun, any way you celebrate Christmas, whether it's just by yourself with your small family or, with a larger family. I'm definitely, I'm glad to like not travel so much. It's always good to be just back at your home with your own stuff. Let me just make sure because I'm talking and talking. Let me just make sure that you guys can hear me. Um, what's up? What's up? What's up? Chat, chat, chat. Um, so yeah, I'm just glad to be home finally. Just so much traveling and it just feels like not just that, it just feels like traveling for 2 months straight ever since Thanksgiving. So it's just really nice to be home and not have to, see so many people. All right, so I'm just locating one more tab before I jump into everything that I want to talk about today. But basically, we're going to talk about Daycare Gate. Recently, there was a citizen journalist by the name of Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old. I can't say kid because he's a young man, but he's a young guy. He went around with a hoodie with his little, Bluetooth Rode mic, and he found a local in Minnesota who was independently investigating a fraud that was going on in Minnesota. And I'm going to show you guys. I mean, I just really have a visual for you. I don't really have, I'm going to play like one clip because the downstream of this fraud being uncovered in Minnesota is gargantuan, and it's now to be found that it's not just in Florida, but it's now also being found nationally. And I think that this is going to be, just a big level of, Doge level uncovering, so that way we can, just get back on track as a country and be able to, fund certain things. I have my own gripes with the funding of, nonprofits, and it definitely makes me mad that our taxpayer funded, or our taxpayer dollars gets funded to programs. First, we found out in Doge, like throughout the whole Doge investigation, that they were going overseas. Our tax dollars were going overseas, and they were funding all of these crazy initiatives, like underwater basket weaving. And I'm just being, um, I'm being funny here, but there were things like that, Colombian opera for I don't know, like it was just different groups, woke groups and stuff like that. Definitely makes me mad. Um, but let me go ahead and share what I have for you guys today. Share screen. Sorry. Like I said, if you guys are barely coming in, I had to fight for my life. I had to reboot my computer like twice, and I finally got it going. All right, there we go. Okay. So let's get my face in here. Perfect. All right. All right. Cool. All right. That was stressful. I hate technical difficulties. I'm in the market for a new computer. So if you're feeling generous, help me get to that goal. I'm trying to get a new computer with a lot more memory. So that way this doesn't crash the way it just did. So, anyway, okay. So, back to what I was saying. Let's cover it because we're going to go through a whole bunch of controversy gates that went over, I guess, like surfaced over the break. Daycare gate, that was a recent thing like a day or two ago in Minnesota, which is now being found nationally. We're going to go through that. Groyper gate. Groyper gate is something that really broke overnight. So if you guys are familiar with the woke right and you know what I'm talking about within the conservative party with, a bunch of these political figures, political influencers, conservative influencers that built their following on MAGA, and then all of a sudden they did these sharp pivots. They went super anti-MAGA, super anti-Trump. They did a sharp pivot. Sorry, this doesn't match with what I'm showing you guys right now. They did a sharp pivot in their ideology. Um, there were some there was one figure by the name of Beryllium, who works for Rift TV, which is associated, I believe it's owned by Elijah Schaffer. I'm not sure if he totally owns it out, but he's definitely associated with Rift TV. And they basically rant about a bunch of things, wokey things, like I don't know. It's not my idea. It's not my cup of tea. Anyway, I have my complaints about the woke right. One of the woke right individuals got outed as like somebody who's more Antifa adjacent, who had done some like, you know, um, adult naughty videos, extracurricular activities for his, same sex, which, I'm a Christian. It's not my cup of tea. However, I will say that adults will make their decisions. And that's not the thing. Like, I'm not trying to minimize that, as a Christian, but it's not just that. It's like all of the other adjacent things that Beryllium was, aligned to. And then finally, we're gonna talk about Rosary Gate. Jack Posobiec, he's also a conservative influencer, which is we're gonna go through all my rants about this because it's just really, really strange, all this stuff about Jack Posobiec and, him being that he's like one of the head people of TPUSA, but yet he's aligning with some Groyper like talking heads like Myron Gaines, who has said some of the most vile things on his podcast, on his platforms. So we're going to go through that. Okay, got it. All right, let me take a look at you guys. Who is in the chat? Do I have any of the mods? All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the first. Okay, so Daycare Gate is going on. Daycare Gate is humongous. This is gargantuan. Good on this kid. I mean, I would say kid because he's so young. He's like a baby. And I guess that just shows my age. I guess I'm just aging. This guy right here, Nick Shirley, 23 years old, went around with a hoodie, a Bluetooth mic. He interviewed this guy. I think his name is David, and they're in Minnesota. And David basically, I'm gonna put the link once this live is completed. I'm gonna put the link in my description so that way you guys can check this out. It's a 42-minute documentary, and basically, this man David, he's at the heart of Minnesota. Um, I can't remember what it is, but his office is in the middle of all of this activity where, he suspected that there was like so much going on with the Somali community in Minnesota, not just to single them out, but particularly they were a group of immigrants, or are a group of immigrants that have all these like businesses and all of these storefronts. And as he is a local, he started to notice that all of these businesses, these storefronts, some of these transportation companies, they were empty. Like they had no passengers in the transportation vehicles, and these were like home care, non-emergent home care transportation vehicles. So this is like, for example, it's a business that would take like an elderly person from their home to, like, let's say a primary care visit or to a dental appointment, something like that, non-emergent. And he would notice that there was no passengers in any of these transportation vehicles. Um, but the thing that really was like the kicker was the daycares. Okay, this blew my ever loving mind. So these daycares in Minnesota, and I know I'm just playing this without any sounds because I want you guys to go watch this documentary. You guys have to go watch it. I'm gonna drop the link, um, you know, in my description whenever this video is done. This live is done. So basically, the storefronts of the daycares, they had these, I mean, there was one day there were, I think there were multiple, at least one daycare that was misspelled Quality Learning Center, but it was spelled Quality Leering Center. These daycares get funded our taxpayer dollars, or, um, millions of dollars. I mean, each center was like 1.2 to $3 million getting funded. And get this is the kicker. There were no children that were being found in these daycare centers, you know? I'm gonna kinda take you through some of the fraud that's being uncovered through this. This blew the door right open to all of the misappropriated funds, and, many people are questioning, like, how political leadership in Minnesota can let this happen, how could you let this happen? And it says, "Everyone under 30 is a kid to me." Same, I never thought that I would get here, but here I am, and, like, these are babies, like, but good for him. Again, like, what was I don't know what I was doing at 23, but, like, I know I was volunteering and anti-trafficking, homes and stuff like that, but this kid, like, blew open the doors to this whole fraud scheme. All right. So that's the gist of it. So it was non-emergent transportation industry, daycare industry, and there was also just the medical industry. So there was, like, for instance, there was a building with 14 clinics in it, and all these clinics were basically just shell companies for these shell businesses that were just getting funded this taxpayer money. So this is a multi-billion dollar fraud scheme that got uncovered. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some of the things that are getting uncovered through this. So this tweet right here, I thought this was interesting, and believe the tweets that I'm going to show you guys. This is just like the tip of the iceberg. I could only pick some of the tweets that were most intriguing to me. That I mean, there were more than this that were intriguing, but this is just the tip of the iceberg because this is now blown open to, like, a national fraud scheme. Okay, so this guy right here, he says, "Let me get this straight. One, Somali immigrants get billions of taxpayer dollars for free for fraudulent daycares. Number two, in exchange, they fund Democratic candidates with free money. And three, Democratic politicians, Walls, Omar, etc., ensure fraudulent payments continue. How is this not an instant jail like this electoral fraud on top of Medicare fraud? How is this not front page news of every newspaper?" And this is true. This is true. Like, let me show you. Hopefully, this will pull up pretty good. Okay, this looks good. Um, so this is like a politician's wallet. I don't know who exactly is getting these donations, but I'm going to assume that this is a Democrat in Minnesota, a local official. And basically what this screenshot is showing you is that all of these daycare centers, all of these, um shell storefront businesses that are getting these fraudulent funds, are basically donating these kickbacks back to the politicians. So it's like a circular, scheme going on here. So the politician basically, to put it in layman's terms, the politician is approving all of the funding to these shell companies who are frauding taxpayer dollars. Basically, taxpayer dollars go to the local government. The officials are saying, okay, you're going to open this business. Here's the check. They don't they don't have feedback loops. They don't have check boxes. They just fund these businesses. Then these businesses, in turn, as a thank you or as a "we got a thing going here with the politician," they then turn around and give the politician all of this money. As you can see, there are multiple lines here that are the same business giving these donations to the politicians. And some of it doesn't, I mean, in this case, it's not even smurfing. Smurfing is a term where, um, I guess this is considered smurfing. Basically, smurfing is a term where, you are giving a donation to a politician or, like, somebody who's running for office, a campaign, and you're doing it in small amounts, but you do it multiple times where it adds up to a big amount. So in this case, this is big smurfing, but yeah, it looks like smurfing. $2,000, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, yeah, this is smurfing. All right, and yeah, this is humongous news. This is humongous news. It says here, Minnesota fraud, as they did a search. Oh, I don't think you guys can see this. Minnesota fraud, and it's just not showing up on any mainstream media news fronts, which is scary. That's scary. All right. So, and the below tweet is just kind of showing more of those smurfing donation bits to the politicians. All right. I'm telling you, this is a lot. This is like the biggest story that broke overnight yesterday. Okay, what happened to my tab? Here we go. All right. Ohio attorney. So this happened in Minnesota. Sorry, I should have like poured me a glass of water. This happened in Minnesota. This was uncovered in Minnesota, and now other states are starting to look into their own local funding, like tracing the money, just seeing where the money goes. So, Ohio attorney Mehek Cook confirms massive fraud in Ohio, another hotbed for Somalis. They run fake home health bill, $250,000 per year per family when no work is actually being done. She says it also happens in Pennsylvania, Audit America, Audit Ohio now, and I'm pushing for that in every single state. The state will, as long as the doctor has approved it, continue to pay you. It could be for 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 when it's critical care. So if you sit at home without caring for an elderly parent who really doesn't need it, make about 75 to 90,000 a year. Now you can add two parents, that's $180,000. Now you can add your in-laws $250,000. So you continue to do this and wonder why the services are being provided. Okay. So it sounds like he's just quoting her. I'm going to just go ahead and play this clip. It's not long, but
so these individuals tried to report the fraud that was happening in Ohio and then eventually came to me to say that we're watching providers rubber stamp paperwork for home health. So in Ohio, and there's many states like this, Pennsylvania and other states too, where you can go in and you can say my aging parent needs a home health care and I want to provide it. So the state will, as long as a doctor has approved it, continue to pay you. It could be for 10 hours, 12 hours, up to 24 when it's critical care. So you could sit at home without caring for an elderly parent who really doesn't need it, make about $75,000 to $90,000 a year. Now you add two parents, that's $180,000. Now you add your in-laws, $250,000. You continue to add this and you wonder, what are the services being provided? So a lot of providers came and said, fraud is occurring because we said we weren't going to rubber stamp this paperwork, so they went to other providers. Their home healthcare network saying, we'll make it worth your while. Well, sounds like a kickback to me. So we really need to investigate the Medicaid system and how much it's increased since the Somalian population came and who really needs critical care, because that's meant for our disabled, our elderly, and people who really need it, not to just live off our system. And that's what's happening in Ohio. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's despicable, but authorities are now looking at it from the Attorney General's office to the U.S. Attorney's office. I flagged them all because this is Ohio tax dollars and we have to take it seriously. I'm tired of people telling me, well, this is the way it's always been. It's subjective and we can't really check. No, you can. Audit America, audit Ohio now, and I'm pushing for that in every single state.
So, yeah, I mean, a modus operandi made a really good point. Now, you guys remember, this is how long I've been around too, around the whole news cycles and everything since the wokey days of early thousands, early 10,000. Anyway, Act Blue. You guys remember Act Blue? This is a really good point. Act Blue was actually doing the same thing, lining the pockets of I think it was all Democratic politicians or candidates. And Act Blue was funneling this money from BLM donations. That's right. Yeah, that was a proven thing. They traced the money. It was from I think it was like the main BLM website where you can donate. And someone found it's like a, where can I call it? Like a processor, like it's a money processor. Act Blue, um, let's just say it's a money processor engine or something, like it's like an entity. And so Act Blue would take the funds from BLM causes or the BLM cause, and then it would funnel it all to the blue Democratic politicians, candidates, campaigns, things like that. So yeah, good observation. That's exactly what it reminds me of as well. So Ohio's investigating it, and now let me pull up this one because again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There was no possible way that I could show you guys all of the tweets that were just blowing my mind about all of the fraud that was being uncovered. So it says here there are 539 child care centers in Washington state, and that lists Somali. So this is now Washington. So we went from Minnesota, where it was uncovered, to Ohio, and now this is Washington state. There are 539 child care centers in Washington state that list Somali as the primary language. Most don't even have a street address. I don't know how many of these are submitting fraudulent claims for state grants and subsidies, but I have strong hunch that the number is not zero. Okay. So this is just like a surface level dig, but yeah, people are starting to question their own local funding and local centers. Sorry, like I said, I had to reboot my computer twice, so all my tabs are like restarting. Have patience with me. Thank you so much. All right, so oh, you guys have to watch this. So this is back in Minnesota. This is a clip, not really a clip, but this is from the documentary, 42 minutes. This TikToker took a clip. He just took this screenshot from the documentary, and he decided to call the number that was on the learning center just to see, what the outcome would be. And listen to this. Listen to this. This is crazy.
So guys, this is absolutely mind-blowing. So I was watching the most recent video by Nick Shirley exposing these daycare centers. Now, they're going daycare to daycare, and the next one that they go to is called Sweet Angel Childcare. This is where they show up to. And this is the business right here. Sweet Angel Childcare in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, listen to where this phone number goes to when you call this child care center. Just wait for it.
Thank you for contacting the office of Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Our office is located at 130 State Capitol.
It went to Tim Walz's office.
Oh my God. I'll do it again. Sweet Angel Childcare. It goes to Governor Tim Walz's office. Why is a child care center directly going to the office of the governor? Make it make sense. Hold on.
Thank you for contacting the office of Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
If this is not a direct link to Tim Walz and these fraudulent child care centers, I don't know what else is. Bro, this is crazy. I'm just in shock right now. I was recording a YouTube video and reacting to this video.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me call and look up their Google reviews. I was just looking up their Google reviews and I was like, let me call this number. And I call it and it goes to Governor Tim Walz's office. Make that make sense.
I'm telling you. It's like anybody can uncover. I bet you guys, if you just researched your local daycare centers, I'm sure there would be something. All right. So just switching gears here. So I'm gonna make a few pivots into the other subjects, but like I said, if I were to bookmark every single thing that I saw on the Minnesota care fraud that was uncovered, we would be here all night. We would literally be here all night. There's just so much fraud. I was gonna mention something before I moved on. Oh, yes. One thing that I want to mention in all of this is, you know, um, just the lack of vigilance on and the misappropriation on the behalf of the politicians working for us. Um, and this is something that's been going on for years. Obviously, this had to be going on for years. And obviously, we have a new administration. They've only been in for about a year now, and 1 year passes by so quick and so much has to get done. 1 year isn't enough. But one thing that I want to say to this is, just somebody from my perspective, being in the anti-trafficking industry, somebody who has done ministry outreach and knows what the in-kind needs looks like for the ministries and for houses and the transitional housing, all of these things. It angers me that, number one, of course, our taxpayer dollars can be going to so many things that benefit Americans, Americans first. But it angers me that these people can fraud the system to such a gargantuan scale. And there are trafficking, like, let me put this in perspective for you. There are more animal shelter spaces for animals, for strays that are picked up off the street, than there are beds for human trafficking survivors. So this makes me incredibly upset that we have such a misappropriated government. And again, we have to be nuanced about this entire thing. We can't just blame everything on Trump because he just got in, and he was fixing it, and then he got, we all know what happened in 2020. But this has been a centuries old problem, like the decades old problem. This is not just a Trump thing. This is like decades of corruption, decades of misappropriation. And it's like, there are children and survivors that are in need right now who need to depend on churches, and you know they have to depend on the goodwill of people to donate in-kind needs like clothing and diapers and you know uh f- hotel rooms to get away from pimps, and food. It like that stuff should be by the charity of some governmental grants, because it is our own people that are going through this, that are being dragged through this evil. And, it just makes me so angry that we have misappropriated so much funding. And we uncover iceberg level things like this. And it's like, we need some better alignment with how these funds are being spent. We need more transparency. And how is it that we can uncover things like Doge, through Doge, and through this massive fraud scheme, through a 23-year-old kid? And it's like, what are we doing? What have we done? And what systems? What do we need to construct to create this transparency? Because this is wild to me that and it's not just I'm not just targeting Somalis, because it's like we have different kinds of immigrants. We have immigrants from Latin America. In fact, that's like the biggest uptick in recent years. And I do have a problem with that. I do have a problem with my taxpayer dollars going towards these things where we have to create all these welfare programs for people that are not Americans. um, all circling back to Americans need help. Americans have needed help. Veterans, trafficking survivors, children, CPS system children, foster care systems children. Like, it's sickening. So anyway, I'm gonna move on. All right. Just a little updates. Was I here? I was here. So just a little update on Candace Owens. Now, the whole Candace Owens, I'm not going to spend too much time on Candace Owens, by the way. Thankfully, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I feel this positive light in my heart that we're going to start dwindling down on talking about Candace Owens. Okay? The hope that I have had. I want to talk about something else, okay? And there are other things that are happening, and look, by the evidence of this stream, we are talking about other things. But Candace Owens, we are going to dwindle. I think we're going to dwindle down on talking about her because her entire fraud global conspiracy scheme is starting to implode. People are starting to turn on her. Her long supported influencers are starting to realize, you know what? She's lying, and the people that she's platforming are not good. Like the Mitch Snow, recent guest that she's had on, he was basically outed as like a domestic abuser, and like all these different types of things. His own son came out Paramount Tactical, if you guys haven't checked them out, Paramount Tactical has been going in on Candace Owens. I mean, has been going on in and talking to different witnesses, different guests that have outed her schemes and her lies. The, it's dwindling down for Candace Owens. So it'll be very interesting. I think I don't know when she comes back, but it'll be very interesting when she comes back on her podcast. I don't know when that is, but I foresee that we're going to talk about her way less. So anyway, the latest on her, just to give you guys an update, Candace Owens was forced to admit she was wrong about how she met her own husband. So it's been public years that Candace's Scientologist backer handler, John Mapin, well, I can't say that that's a handler. This is what the tweet says. But he is under a lot of her tweets, commenting and kind of like I have seen him evangelize Scientology and stuff like that. However, today she lied and pretended as if John Mapin was not at the party where she met her husband. But there is one small problem she didn't consider before blatantly lying again. There were photos of her with John Mapin at the party. John's own wife even confirmed this for everyone. Candace didn't look through photos and suddenly realized that she was wrong. She looked through her comments and suddenly realized that people brought receipts how she lied. And it is insane. So there are photos of, Irina Mappin, John Mappin's wife. So apparently there was this couple that they know, and she thought that she wasn't at this party. She didn't remember. She lied through it, and now she had to correct this whole lie in her tweet scheme. So it's insane. It's insane that her, little empire of lies is starting to crumble. All right. So, let's switch gears here. Um, again, I gotta wait for just more fraud, more fraud. We're gonna pivot. All right. So let's get to Groyper Gate. This story is wild. Groyper Gate is what we all suspected about the woke right. So if you guys are kind of new to what the woke right is, now I have been saying this for a while on my channel, on my on my social media. The woke right or the conservative party is infiltrated. I truly believe that. I think that we witness such blatant lies and narratives and all these things that were so obvious back in the early thousands, and I'm talking about like 2016, 17, 19, 2020 was like the year, the mostly peaceful but fiery riots, the just all the narratives, right? And it was just so obvious, and we could point it out, and it was so vividly illustrated. This was something that was not sneaky. It was just on the opposite end, and it was very obvious to see. So what did we do as the conservatives? We formed a counter culture. We were the counter culture to all that, and the pendulum swung. I believe we defeated all that miraculously by God's grace. We defeated all that. But what has happened in the past, I would say, like, it's been gradually happening at least for the past 3 years. I personally believe that the red pill manosphere, industry or podcasting industry was the first of it. Like, it was the first phase where they would weaken the minds of men, and then they would graduate from there. Um, Basically, conservative influencers have been punting these talking points, these narratives that have been woke. They've been utilizing things like identity politics, woke schemes, the same things that the left would. And, it's been very sneaky because it's like I have seen so many conservatives fall for these narratives. A lot of it has been very pro certain um I don't know, like pro certain narratives, like anti-Israel, anti-Jewish people. Like, it's just all been it's been very, very obvious. So, you know, I've wondered to myself, like, could it be that some of these schemes are infiltrated by leftists, like actual leftists? And this very thing seems to be so. There was a Groyper who works for Rift TV, and his name is Verillium. Verillium, I think, works for Elijah Schaffer, and he was very, I mean, all the things like anti-Jewish people, said some vile things, very that all the talking points, identity politics, very white nationalist politics, and or worldview. And recently, he was uncovered to be like this very Antifa adjacent leftist. And so, I don't know that he was a leftist. At one point, he was a leftist. So anyway, I made this thread. I'm gonna also put this in my description below if you guys want to check this out. But basically, this guy, he was uncovered to be a trans person, dressing in women's clothes, um, very mostly peaceful but fiery riots person, talking about George Floyd. Um, Here he was caught in his own tweets talking about being investigated by the FBI for BLM activities, Um, Raw egg nationalist was questioning all of this. But yeah, very leftist, very Antifa adjacent activities. Um, People that are like-minded have been calling this type of behavior out in an infiltration into the conservative party, I said. And I talked about the horseshoe theory, how, the woke left and the woke right are very adjacent in their beliefs. Um, and there was just some proofs that I dropped in here that Verillium, who once again claimed to be this self-described Groyper, very very much anti-Semite, talked about, slandered Jews all the time. And yesterday he posted this sort of this reaction video, or this like a response video. And some of his, I'm going to let you just read some of the captions here. I'm not going to play the video, but basically he was talking about his conversion to Christianity. And, this is the problem that I have with this, because again, Christians are called to proclaim the gospel. They're called to do this in love. And if you don't have love, then you're nothing but a creaky door or rusty gate, a sounding gong. It basically says like you're annoying, you're not getting through, you're just noise. And this is like, First Corinthians has to be like the structure of love when you proclaim the gospel. So when you do it in such a way where you're vilifying a specific group of people without cause, just because of who they are ethnically and religiously, um, not without reason, through slander and blood libel, then that's not doing or proclaiming the gospel through love. That's doing it through hate. And this is the problem that I have with him. Now, I said in this very long tweet that, as an evangelical Christian, I want to be clear that I rejoice when somebody genuinely has a conversion to Christ, that they have a full repentance, they have a dying to sin, that they have a fruit of their conversion. Because in Ezekiel 36, it talks about when you are in Christ, when you get converted to Christ, when Jesus and God invades your heart, he takes your heart of stone and he replaces it with the heart of flesh. You have a new spirit, you have this new way about you. That's why you're reborn, you're a new creature, and the Bible talks about these themes all throughout. And so when you are going around and you have this heart of stone and you're proclaiming things in hate, Are you truly converted to Christianity? That's like that's the biggest thing for me. And unfortunately, a lot of this is how a lot of Christians get diverted or they get derailed and confused. Even especially like the fresh converts, they get confused and they take on this rhetoric of like I particularly have believed replacement theory before. Like, truly, I have. I've believed the replacement theory before, but I've never done it in such a way where I viewed Jewish people as my enemies. I never believed the replacement theory. Like, I just didn't know any better with replacement theory. I never believed it in such a way where I had this scarcity mentality where it was just the Gentiles and never the Jews or anybody else. Um, and this brand of Christianity with the Groypers, it's just very extreme. Um, and so, this is the problem that I have with this response video. He's basically like kind of giggling and chuckling through it. And he's like, I was a leftist at one point, then I was a Christian, and then he threw a few F bombs in there and like cussed. And, still just like a couple days ago, this tweet was from a couple days ago where he was vilifying Jewish people, you know, and just dehumanizing them. And it's like, that's not a fruit of Christianity. You're called to be selfless. You're called to, you know, humility and repentance and restraint. And this is only spreading bitterness, and it repels seekers from drawing them towards the truth. So anyway, um, I know I kind of ranted a little long on that, but that's how you can tell if somebody is truly converted. Like, you shouldn't be confused if these people say they're Christians, but they're doing very opposite things, saying very opposite things, have language of the opposite of a Christian. Then you have it. You should, you know, have that as proof. And I talked about Christ as King being one of these like masks, these badges, these slips. A lot of the Groypers, they had these like Christ is King in their bio, and they use that as a permission slip, as a badge to like say whatever they wanted, against, so even more than Jews. Like, they would hate on, I don't know, like people like of different races. It was just crazy. They've become a caricature of what the left painted the right to be, and that's why we speak out about this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to pivot here. So as I kept looking up more and more on this whole thing, I saw that there was this proof that this particular Groyper, Beryllium, he had this discord, and what would be usually a hallmark of the left, like the extreme left, which would be, this multi-sexual, open sexual type of sexuality. Um, and I'm not saying it's exclusive to the left, of course not, but it is usually openly talked about and used as a form of pride, no pun intended, but they're this a festival dedicated to this entire thing, right? So it's usually a hallmark of the left. And this Discord basically illustrated all of that. This guy, Captive Dreamer, who is one of the exposers of this entire thing, he said Verillium's Discord channel members seem to share this homosexual, bisexual past. Now, like I said, these people are adults, and although I don't agree with this lifestyle, and this is nothing that I would endorse, um, like I said, this is just a symptom of the left, and it is definitely a characteristic of the left. So as I was scrolling, this is like something that I uncovered myself. Like, as I was going through the people that were talking about this, I just came across these posts where there were people defending Beryllium, and so these two accounts, for instance, I don't think I these two accounts were defending him. One of them said, let me just go back here. I'm gonna have to come on. Me watching all the Beryllium get canceled for something we've all done. What do you mean? watching Beryllium get canceled for something that you all have done, you know? Like, you all have done this? And who is you all? Like, is it all Groypers? And sure enough, when I looked at this account, like, look at the bio, AF Old Dead, Old Head. So AF, is that the publication AF that is headed by Ali Alexander? Um, look at the caption, the roast of it, woke right Democrat. Okay, so woke right Democrat. Um, retweeting content with Nick Fuentes, just like, yeah, Groyper stuff. Okay. And then the other tweet that I saw, um, this guy, if beryllium is going down, I'm going down too. And this guy takes a selfie of himself with a diaper and a furry sticker on his face. So he seems to be like some furry, like sexuality, is wearing a diaper. And I think those types of people who wear the diapers like to like soil themselves, defecate themselves. Like I don't understand, but that's apparently a sexuality. And yeah, same with this guy. He was tweeting, sure enough, Groyper type of things. Now, what I will say is that these two accounts, it was interesting going down the rabbit hole. And I'm sorry, this is like one of the rabbit holes that I went down. A surface level dig of their Groyper network, loan status, for instance, one of the screen records of the previous tweet. It was this guy right here, loan status. The people that he followed, like for instance, he followed Rift TV, Elisha Safer, and then there were like a bunch of other Groypers, and this is still his list here. And a lot of these Groypers, they had like these anime type of profile pictures. I don't know if that's like a sub faction of Groypers, like, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Like, does that mean anything? And I'm genuinely asking. If you know, like, let me know in the comments. A lot of these people used anime profile pictures. Okay, so I clicked on one of them by random. Matthew's, oops, why is this so? Matthew's Passion. It says Groyper in the bio, and I thought that that was interesting because why do you have to put Groyper in your bio? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to indicate yourself as a Groyper? Because usually if you like, I don't know. I don't know. So I went to the profile and this is what I found, you know, little anime characters with the swastikas in the background, Nick Fuentes, um, content updates, and then made me think because just a few weeks ago, there was a big report that was unearthed, the NCRI report that reported that Nick Fuentes actually had a big bot network that was uncovered, that was discovered, and they were mostly foreign, you know. And I thought to myself, I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. Rift TV, who is Elijah Schaefer's, who I would consider a Groyper in my personal opinion, um, has supporters accounts that are Nick Fuentes adjacent, and Nick Fuentes recently got uncovered to have a big bot network. Okay, so it had me thinking like, does Rift TV and Nick Fuentes share the same system? And if you guys remember this video that I did a few weeks ago, we went through this very video by Wyatt Claypool, and he went through the Rift TV channels on Rumble and on YouTube and how they just seem really artificially boosted, artificially subscribed to, commented on. It just seemed very strange, right? So yeah, it's just like a rabbit hole. More to come on that, but Groypergate was something interesting to uncover. Now most of these Groypers just are not, I would never say that they're role models for society or young men or anything like that. They usually are uncovered to be, you know, the cesspool of depravity, bad morals. Okay. All right. Let me take a breath. Let me take a breath. Ugh. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. A lot of you guys, you know, some people violate community guidelines still free. I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like these people are like violating TOS guidelines everywhere. Candace Owens, for instance, like she's violating so many guidelines, terms of service, and she's like monetized and free, and her algorithm's cool, like nothing. Right? Right? This comment says they seem to be into this stuff. Nick Fuentes said Kanye was real for confessing into giving sex acts to a cuz. Yeah. I have this like weird, strange, like no evidence backed theory, but it makes me think if Kanye West is somehow handled by the same people that are handling all these other woke right influencers, I don't know. I don't know that for a fact, but it just makes me think. All right, so let's pivot into Rosary Gate. Now, Rosary Gate is another thing. Now, if you guys remember just a video back, we talked about Myron Gaines and him being at TPUSA. And, everybody knows who Myron Gaines is. If you don't know who Myron Gaines is, like, just, I lost my tweet. Myron Gaines is this woke right podcaster. He headed the manosphere, red pill industry, said very vile things about women and like how you should have these relationships, although he doesn't hold any relationships. He's not married. He doesn't have kids, but he has all this advice to offer men. It's just like the strangest thing. And men actually listen to him. But Myron Gaines is also very highly anti-Semitic. I mean, in the most vile way. And again, he, former Fed. He's able to get away with all this. Of course, I think he was demonetized on YouTube. But still, in my personal opinion, like all of this just seems very coordinated. Now, this was the the very infamous picture that was taken where Jack let me turn this off. Jack Posobiec, that guy in the freedom shirt with the blazer, he is a TPUSA like leader. He's in multiple TPUSA conferences. He's always doing sit downs and podcasts. He is a TPUSA head person. Charlie Kirk, from all of the content, all of the speeches he gave, he always talked about this being brain rot in the conservative sphere, this anti-Semitism and all of the excuses and blame that these conservatives would put on Jewish people. And Charlie Kirk stood up. He stood up for the Jewish community, for Israel. Despite what all the lies will say out there, despite what all these influencers will lie about, that is what Charlie Kirk stood for. And so it's just strange that when Charlie Kirk is gone, like all of a sudden it's like opening the gates to all of these people that Charlie Kirk would despise. And I think that this was Myron Gaines' first time at TPUSA, so that says a lot. So Jack Posobiec proudly poses with Myron Gaines. Myron Gaines is obviously wearing this Let 'em Cook hoodie with the Cookie Monster and the cookies in the oven. And that's a reference of Nick Fuentes, talking about, the genocide, like the Holocaust, make it. And it's like people in the concern, like some of these woke right people were like, he's just making a joke. It's like, you guys complain so much about Palestine and genocide and things like that, but then it's like when people like this wear, the hoodies with genocidal references, like all of a sudden it's okay. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it's okay. So anyway, Jack Posobiec posed next to this. Like keep note of that. Okay, that's the whole thing. That's what's gonna tick this entire thing off. So many people caught on to this whole thing, this whole like persona that he was putting on of being like this good Catholic Christian. Went on stage to TPUSA holding his rosary, which a lot of Catholics attest that your rosary is supposed to be kept private. That's supposed to be a very intimate thing between you and God, you know? I'm not Catholic, so I don't know, but that's what the various testimonies from Catholics, that's what I've seen. Jack Posobiec brandishes his, his rosary as if it's like some sort of badge, CSI badge, you know what I mean? So anyway, so people are like, this post said, "For the life of me, I can't figure out how anyone falls for Poso's shtick. He comes out on stage with rosaries aloft as if he's fending off Dracula. This guy's such a phony and a chaos agent. He's among the worst grifters in Trump's orbit." And just based off of the things that I knew, seen from Charlie Kirk's content and the way that he valued the cleanliness of the conservative party, and although he wasn't a perfect person, he tried to upkeep that image for his organization. It's just slimy. Like, that's what it is. It's slimy that once your friend dies, once your friend is assassinated, you're like okaying and normalizing and sanitizing all of these talking heads that have been so vile recently, you know? I'm talking mostly about Myron Gaines. Fresh, he's very passive and he just okays it. He's, you know, okaying it basically. So what happened? So Mark Levin called him out. He called Jack Posobiec a crackpot because he's doing very crackpot things. You're posing, sanitizing, okaying this chronically anti-Semitic, anti-Christian talking head. And it's like, why is this okay? Like, and this is what I mean. A lot of conservatives are like screaming at people like me who don't want to unite with this stuff. Like, I don't want to unite with, talking heads. Sorry, I like messed with my hair and I didn't fix it. I was talking for like a good 3 hours with my hair all messed up. Sorry about that. Um, a lot of conservatives are like worried about midterms. And it's like, yes, you should be worried about midterms and you should consider your voting base. A lot of us are Christian. Not all of us are Christian, but a lot of us are Christian. And we are not going to align with this stuff. Like, we're just not going to align with this stuff. We're not okaying this stuff. It would be lying and against our convictions as Christians to be like, okay, yeah, like, let's just pose with severely, chronically anti-Semitic, vile talking heads that disperse horrific advice for young men, for impressionable young men, just corroding society by fracturing the conservative party, fracturing values, fracturing morals. Like, we're not okay with this. I'm not okay with this. I'm not uniting with this, And that's what I'm like. I'm so disappointed in certain people because it's like they're just like, just unite. Like, it's like, why are y'all being divisive? It's like, do you not see these people who are saying the most vile things? And it's like, why don't you have anything to say about these people? But it's like the people who are calling them out are the ones that need to shut up. That's the biggest problem that I've observed. Um, and so people like Mike Levin called him out and said he was a crackpot, you know? And from there, Jack Posobiec, um, he did this whole shtick. Oh, dang it. I have to like find it again. But Jack Posobiec did this whole thing where he deflected from the actual topic at hand. That's his brother. We're going to get to that too. His brother was like spamming my comments. Um, Jack Posobiec, and he, this is just another video where he called a pregnant lady a fat effing Jew, which is like, why do you want this at your event? You know what I mean? Like, why are you okaying this, normalizing this? This is not cool. Let me find it. I apologize, guys. Like I said, I had to restart my computer twice, and so that just messed up everything that I had intact. Oh, look, David Draymond retweeted one of my tweets. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a front vocalist to Disturbed. Oh, here we go. So this is what a lot of people were calling him out. Let me find it. And so many conservatives were like, why do you hate him? Because you're because he's holding his rosary or whatever. It's like, this is not why we're coming at him. It's not because he's wearing this rosary. It's because he's a hypocrite. He's posing with Myron Gaines while brandishing his rosary on stage. You know what I mean? And so that was the whole thing. Like, a bunch of people, like redheaded libertarian was flaunting her rosary, saying Mark Levin's veiled attack against the Catholic faith just adds a litany of reasons that way he should go nowhere in position of government. Mark Levin was not coming at Jack Posobiec for his rosary or for his Catholic faith. Like, that is not what it was. That's not what it was at all. Okay. And I said, Jack, nobody, and I mean nobody, is mad that you exhibited your rosary. We're concerned that the prominent conservative figures who have massive influence and affluence are sanitizing vile messages like casual genocide, references on hoodies. We just can't pretend this away. We just can't, you know? And it's like, it is genuinely like an infection in the body. Like, when you're sick, when you have a virus, when you have an infection, do your white blood cells say sorry for their job, or do they just do their job? You know what I mean? Like, when there's an infection, if there's an infection in the body and you recognize it, you're not just gonna let the infection fester. You're gonna get sick. It's gonna take over your entire body. I don't want that to happen. So white blood cells attack the infection and they try to get rid of it. Do they apologize? No, they just do their job. That's their instinctual, God-written job, to get rid of the infection, because they have the ability to. They have the resources to. And so this is the thing, like, I cannot stand that Jack Posobiec would lie to his audience and say that somebody like, Mark Levin was just attacking his faith, when Mark Levin was not attacking his faith. It was like, we're making an example that this whole thing is crazy, that you are basically all smiles and you're good with all of this, and you're just sanitizing this behavior when it's gross. It's disgusting, you know? So that is Rosary Gate. Just like, a bunch of people were calling him out. Oh, let me show you guys this. So he posted a picture of this rosary. I'm just going to zoom in. He posted this picture of his rosary, and one of he got community noted, and it turns out that he just stole this picture from an eBay listing. You know what I mean? So it's like the grift. It just kept going on and on and on. You know what I mean? Just stealing images from eBay. He stole this image from Etsy, you know? So it's like, are you Catholic, or is it just convenient? Like, are you Christian, or is it just when it's convenient for you to be Christian? You know what I mean? Oh God, I don't know. The woke right stuff is really like it really does. It's so much every day, so much every day. It's just insane. Anyway, I rambled for a good hour. Again, I apologize for all of the technical difficulties, all of the refreshing tabs. I'm gonna, like I said, if you guys want to help me out with a new computer, you know where to find me. Okay, I need a glass of water. I forgot to bring me my drink in this room, and now I am parched. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So many controversies, so little time. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we'll see what unfolds tomorrow. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, although I think I'm going to be here tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.